I made Scientific Magic Chapter 2, Magic is Science. Chapter 2 Magic is Science. Could it be that I have traveled to a magical world? Lin En quickly came back to his senses after a short shock. After all, he had traveled through time, and he couldn't even be sure whether he was in the original universe, and nothing was impossible. Lin is naturally very interested in magical things like magic, and his strong desire to explore even temporarily overwhelmed the fear of being hunted down by the Holy See. As a wizard apprentice who has only been in the business for more than half a year, Carl knows very limited magic, only 5 kinds. Among them, elementary matter deconstruction, condensation, and mage hand are the most basic zero-ring magic. Although they are very important, they have no offensive ability. The more advanced one-level magic, fireball, needs to consume corresponding magic materials. As for the other one-level magic, ice blade, Carl has not yet mastered it. Lin En lowered his head and fumbled for the cloth bag hanging around his waist, taking out his limited assets one by one. 2 red flints, 3 seekers silver coins, more than a dozen copper coins, 7 drafts drawing complex magic formulas, a yellowish, elemental analysis, and a small bag of grey powder. This is the fireball technique, spell casting material, embers of the red fire. Lin En sticks a handful of fine powder, and feels a little ready to move in his heart. Carl has the complete casting steps of fireball in his memory. First use, elementary material deconstruction technique, to analyze the spell casting materials. And then cast, mage hand, to make embers of red fire, vibrate at a specific frequency to activate magic. The whole process sounds cumbersome, but the most time-consuming analysis of spellcasting materials can be completed in advance, as long as you are skilled enough. Fireball can be activated in just 1 second. Lin En couldn't wait to experience the supernatural power, but finally held back. This handful of embers of the red fire is worth 5 seekers silver coins, which is only enough to cast fireball 3 times. It must not be wasted at will. It is better to choose a simple spell for the first time. After thinking for a while, Lin En chose condensation as the target of the first spell. As several zero-ring magics that must be learned, if elementary matter deconstruction is the key to using magic materials, and mage hand is the best help for wizards, then condensation is an introductory class for apprentices up. Because of the release of this basic magic and its upper magic, ice blade, there is no need to prepare the casting materials in advance. All the casting materials can be directly extracted from the elemental world. According to the method given in memory, Lin closed his eyes and meditated. Probably the original body Carl laid a good foundation for him. After just 2 or 3 seconds, he successfully opened the door to the new world. After closing his eyes, he saw an extremely magical world. Under the induction of spiritual power, Lin could clearly see the entire room filled with countless shimmering magic elements. 1 billion, 10 billion, 100 billion. No, it is impossible to calculate their huge number with numerical values alone. They are as dazzling as the twinkling stars in the dark universe. Most of these elements are very active, constantly changing their positions. Among them, the element with the largest number is called Selu, which accounts for about 70% of the total, and is called a useless element by his mentor Kelu. Such a spectacular sight shocked Lin En, and it took him a long time to react, concentrating on the use of magic. The steps to release condensation technique are very simple. You only need to extract 2 elements related to water and fuse them in a ratio of 2 to 1. The proportion of the former in the elemental world is not low, about 20 to 30%, while the latter is relatively rare and needs to be searched. Thanks to the original body Carl being very obsessed with magic, these basic spells have been practiced hundreds of times on weekdays, and the foundation is very solid. After Lin En experienced the initial discomfort, he quickly mastered the method. It's just that the process of casting the spell made him feel inexplicably familiar. When Lin En opened his eyes again, a ball of water the size of a marble was slowly suspended in the palm of his hand under the support of the mage's hand. Very good, it worked. Lin En's mouth curled up slightly, but the short distraction immediately caused the water ball to disintegrate and drip down the gap between his fingers. As if being splashed with cold water, Lin quickly broke free from the joy of successfully releasing the magic. As an apprentice wizard, he is still facing the pursuit of the Holy See. How can he be complacent because of this small achievement? Not to mention that this marble-sized water ball is useless at all in battle. I'm afraid it's too little to quench the enemy's thirst. However, he has seen the scene where his predecessor's mentor, Kelu, used condensation as a front and cast the second-level magic, group ice blade, against the enemy. Dozens of fist-sized water clusters instantly condense, and then transform into a solid diamond-shaped ice blade, shooting at the incoming bandits like locusts. Defeat all incoming enemies with just 1 blow. Thinking of this, Lin decided to sense the elemental world and try again. Probably because of the fusion of memories after time travel, Lin's mental power is much more abundant than that of the original Carl, and he can also mobilize more magic power. Using condensation technique just now cost him very little, and he had a premonition that he could do more things. Lin En closed his eyes, and soon entered the elemental world again. This time, he did not rush to cast condensation, but tried to use his mental power to influence every element he could find around him. These elements are very different in appearance, vaguely giving Lin a sense of familiarity, and some of them are extremely heavy, and a little movement will make him feel mentally exhausted. After being completely immersed, Lin suddenly noticed a strange phenomenon. The elements floating in front of him were actually sucked into his body at a strange frequency, and then expelled out, repeating the cycle. It turns out that the body of a wizard needs to take in these magic elements regularly. This doubt suddenly appeared in Lin En's mind, and after careful observation, he found an astonishing discovery, because this phenomenon was clearly caused by his own breathing. Wait, isn't this trademark just oxygen? Lin En was stunned for a moment, and couldn't help taking a breath. In his eyes, the tall and mysterious image of the magic element suddenly collapsed. Before he didn't recognize it immediately, because he didn't see these elements intuitively, but perceived them through spiritual power in a very metaphysical way. And then exerted influence with magic power. Moreover, the proportion of chemical elements in the air in this world is also somewhat different from that in the previous life, so Lin didn't think about it at all at first. But with this argument, there is a new explanation for the process of capturing elements to create water flow. What is water? Is an inorganic substance composed of 2 chemical elements, hydrogen and oxygen. So he wasn't using magic just now, but was doing a chemical experiment. Wizards are actually a group of chemists. This conclusion made Lin En stunned for a moment, but then shook his head quickly. This world has a magical existence called magic power. Judging from the spellcasting just now, magic power may be able to control matter from a microscopic level. If there are no restrictions, then the wizard is simply a god. According to previous scientific research theories, all matter in the world is composed of atoms. If magic can manipulate matter from this level, everything can be created or destroyed. Lin En soon fell into a reverie, keenly aware of what a terrifying force the chemistry and physics knowledge he had learned in his previous life would become when combined with magic. If the scientific theories in the previous life were to create various machines to transform the world, then wizards can use magic power to transform these theories directly into magic and gather great power in themselves. Lin En stretched out his hand again, and the hydrogen and oxygen in the air around him was stripped out, turning into a small water mass floating in his palm. This time, Lin is not satisfied with this. If his guess is correct, then the point of the so-called one-ring magic, ice blade, is to change the form of water from liquid to solid, thereby increasing its lethality. To do this, the temperature of the water must be lowered. Lin En recalled that according to the physics learned in his previous life, the faster the molecular motion of an object, the higher the temperature, and the slower the molecular motion. The lower the temperature, that means he needs to slow down the movement of water molecules. With a thought in Lin En's mind, the extremely active water molecules in the palm became more and more slowly under the influence of magic power, and packed together tightly. And the small water clusters condensed into transparent ice crystals almost instantly. Just as Lin was pleasantly surprised that his guess had come true, a notification sound suddenly sounded in his mind. Special energy detected. The source is unknown, and there is no record in the database. Are relevant files established? Lin En was taken aback for a moment, and then a look of disbelief suddenly appeared on his face. This voice is all too familiar to him. But didn't you time travel? Even the body has been changed, and the auxiliary chip implanted before should no longer exist. 071, do you know how we got here? Is there a corresponding record in the system? Lin asked eagerly. Due to unknown reasons, the system was shut down and restarted, and there was no record of the whole process. Lin En frowned, feeling a little disappointed, but he quickly calmed down and asked again. Then how long can you run with the remaining energy now? Now that he has come to this different world, and is still facing the risk of being hunted down at any time, Lin En can only try his best to find a way to keep himself alive. The auxiliary intelligence that followed is undoubtedly a surprise. Although the intelligence of the auxiliary chip implanted by the individual is very limited due to the Federal Amendment Act, thanks to his status as a data storage officer in his previous life. 71's interior is preserved, with many scientific and technological materials from previous lives. In this strange world where science and magic share, the importance of these materials is self-evident. The remaining energy is 37.6%. Special energy has been detected, which can be used to supply the system to operate. Special energy. Does it mean magic power? Lin En was thoughtful, and he was extremely surprised by the various characteristics displayed by the magic power. If he was still in his previous life, he would have plunged into the laboratory a long time ago. It's a pity that I'm just a sorcerer apprentice who has no money and power and is being hunted down by the Holy See. It's not certain whether I can see the sun tomorrow. Lin En sighed, and then said solemnly, 071, create a new file, and name this special energy magic power. Loading database. Taking advantage of this gap, Lin turned his head and looked at the diamond-shaped ice blade that was floating in the palm of his hand. Because it is mixed with magic power, this ice blade is different from the solid ice I have seen before. It constantly exudes a cold air. The head is pointed and cone-shaped, and the hull is streamlined. It is said that it is an ice blade, but it is more appropriate to describe it as an ice arrow. This form is called Kellogg configuration, which can reduce air resistance as much as possible. It can be seen that his mentor Kellu has a lot of attainments in fluid mechanics. Lin En complained in his heart, and then his face became a little weird, because compared with the ice blade released by Kellu in his memory, the one in his hand is really smaller. Although the hydrogen content in the air in this world is much higher than in the previous life, even if it is all collected, it will not be able to create a sufficient amount of water flow. Thinking of this, Lin En couldn't help but wonder how his mentor used the second-level magic group ice blade technique. Wouldn't it be possible to instantly extract hydrogen, oxygen, and water vapor within a radius of several hundred meters? With this ability, Kellu doesn't need to use multiple ice blades. As long as the enemy is himself, he will suffocate to death due to lack of oxygen. I couldn't figure it out for a while, and Lin En didn't get too entangled. Looking at the ice blade floating in front of him, he suddenly had a thought. 071, call up relevant information about armor-piercing arrows and barbed arrows. Lin En said silently in his heart. The next moment, massive data streams flashed on the retina one by one, and Lin En was very dizzy looking at the countless pictures, materials and three-dimensional models. Replace the production material with ice, and optimize and reorganize with the goal of stability, reducing air resistance, and maximum damage. Lin touched his chin and said again. The image suspended on the retina quickly faded, and after just a second, a brand new three-dimensional graphic appeared in front of his eyes. Lin En firmly recorded the three-dimensional image in front of him in his heart, and with his right hand grasped, the suspended ice blade suddenly disintegrated. Zero-ring magic, elementary matter deconstruction technique. The ice blade that disintegrated in an instant was restored to the most basic elements. Under the shackles of magic power, it was squeezed in the palm of the hand, constantly changing shape, getting closer to the image in the retina, and soon stabilized. The recondensed ice blade is much narrower than before, and the cone-shaped head has been changed into a triangular shape that is easier to break armor and bleed. There are two long barbs underneath. It is foreseeable that once the ice blade hitting the target and plunging into the flesh will definitely make the other party speechless. The success of the magic improvement experiment made Lin En see the hope of surviving, but the power of ice blade is limited, and no matter how optimized the shape is, it is difficult to obtain a large increase, so Lin quickly put the goal in the hands of Carl. The second ring of magic, Fireball, is on. Different from using blade of ice, which can extract raw materials from the air, Fireball requires the magic material, embers of red fire, to activate. Lin En guessed that this should be a flammable substance, which can rapidly expand and burn when heated by friction under the constraint of magic power. If his guess is correct, does that mean that he can use other flammable substances to release this magic? 071, find out about the production and use of white phosphorus. Lin En said silently in his mind. White phosphorus is a colorless or light yellow translucent waxy substance with a strong irritant and a very low ignition point. Once in contact with oxygen, it will burn violently, and the temperature can reach more than 1000 degrees Celsius. What is even more frightening is that this white phosphorus fire is difficult to extinguish and has strong adhesion. Once it comes into contact with the human body, it will quickly burn through the skin and muscles until it penetrates deep into the bone marrow. The gas produced by the burning is also highly toxic. In his previous life, Lin, who was a data storage clerk, had seen the scene of the Federation launching a new type of white phosphorus bomb. It was definitely a terrifying scene that he would never forget in his life. The moment the missile exploded in the air, continuous rain of fire poured down the sky, igniting an inexhaustible sea of flames within a range of several kilometers. The scorching high temperature, indestructible characteristics and terrifying toxicity, even hiding in a bunker cannot escape the doom of death. Because the white phosphorus bomb is so terrible, it was listed as an anti-human weapon and banned as early as the last century, and the federal districts only dared to study it in private. However, the process of making white phosphorus is actually not complicated, and there are detailed records in the assistant intelligence brain. As long as he finds the materials, he can make it without the help of equipment. Just as Lin was thinking, a dull knock on the door suddenly sounded behind him. Lin N's complexion changed suddenly. He is now hiding in the slums of Nordland territory, and normally no one will bother him rashly. Unless, the witch hunt team sent by the Inquisition has arrived. P.S. Please recommend new books, ask for collections, ask for monthly tickets, ask for follow-up reading, thank you. End of this chapter. Popular today. 1. After Canary was reborn, he was favored as a boss, 3.2k views today. 2. I made scientific magic, 3.1k views today. 3.